Hi, my name is Scott, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the wording of the LD Universal Healthcare Single Payer topic and why the resolution saying the United States instead of the United States federal government is really interesting, thought provoking, and could lead to a lot of arguments that are traditionally not said on policy based resolutions. Before I get started, I just want to say that this video is in no way, shape, or form supposed to be comprehensive, or could it be at this point, and is not going to outline like a specific argument that you could make on this topic using this distinction, but is rather meant to be thought-provoking in how you could utilize the wording of the resolution and the way that the topic is written in order to make arguments about the actor of the resolution. So if we look specifically at the wording of the wording of the topic is worded like what I would call a policy topic, not necessarily from policy debate, but it's written like a policy that the government would do. It says the United States ought to implement a single-payer universal healthcare system. And this differs from different types of policy topics, at least from the ones that I'm used to, because traditionally or typically they say United States federal government and not just the United States. And I think that the exclusion of the words federal government from this topic are really interesting, both in terms of a lot of different strategic choices that that teams can make on this topic, but also just different affirmatives, negative positions can be read that I think is worth talking about in the beginning of this topic so that it doesn't take you by surprise. So what do I mean by the exclusion of the federal government? So in policy debate, if this was a policy debate resolution, it would say federal government. And the reason for that is just, every single policy debate resolution that I've ever been involved in, that has been the way that it is worded. And traditionally, the reason for that is, I think, to try to get the affirmative team to defend federal action. And I think the exclusion of federal in this topic means that the affirmative is going to have an easier time answering some positions like the state's counterplan, and might even say the state's counterplan as the actual actor of their AF. And I think that idea is where I'd like to go next. So if you think of the wording of this topic, the United States doesn't necessarily mean the federal government. It could mean the 50 states and territories working together. Or since it doesn't have the territories, are they excluded from this? How does that function with the topic? That could be a whole separate video that I'm not going to go right now. But the states as being your actor could definitely be something that I could see teams doing, because a lot of teams are going to guide their entire strategy on this topic by answering the state's counterplan. Well, I think that's definitely something that you should think about how you're going to answer. I don't think that's going to drive my choice in affirmative on this topic, but there are definitely going to be people who do that and who also just think it's strategic to say the states is your actor on this topic. So instead of the federal government doing a single-payer universal healthcare system, it would be all 50 states' governments doing that. Now, the way states counterplan works on the negative normally is you have like uniform fiat where the states work together in conjunction with each other and do the same thing and do all these interstate compact things. And well, I think that that's like a theory discussion for the negative when they read that counterplan. I'm not sure that this is actually strategic to do on the AF, because I think giving the neg that theory argument where they can also read other off-case positions might be a little cumbersome, but I really don't think it's going to stop people. And I think that just the idea of the states doing the single payer instead of the federal government doing it is a really good example of just where I think the wording of this resolution is at. I don't necessarily think that, this is the most strategic thing to do, or, that the best teams are going to do this, but people are definitely going to do this, or you are definitely going to have some responses to this. On the flip side of that, I think other people are going to answer the state's counterplan type of argument by saying the wording of this topic doesn't exclude the states. The states are done by the states are included in the action of the affirmative. So the United States includes like a comprehensive whole of government approach done by the states, the federal government, regional, local, everybody. And I think that that's something that different teams will go at, maybe for the AF, maybe on the neg. I'm not sure it's strategic for the AF because then you could pick out of the states. That would be an interesting thing to do. But all things that are set up by the way that this topic is worded. I think teams that might be afraid of that theory discussion might use this a different way in a second type of states AF, where instead of saying all the states should do it, you could have like specific state compacts work together with each other. So like during COVID, the Northeast kind of worked together during COVID to like create their own regional task force. The Pacific Northwest and California did the same thing. I could see debaters on this topic, especially in progressive LD, doing that because typically on topics, teams like to read, a really specific planned affirmative that has like a single state or something like that do it. I think that might not be as popular on this topic because of like T semantics. It says states instead of state. I don't think that'll stop people, but I think that a more strategic way of doing that might be these regional compact type of arguments that underneath of the wording of this topic, in my opinion, would definitely be topical. I think that there's some other ways to think about this too. So like, I've mentioned in another video that I think that this is a tremendous courts topic. I just don't know what that looks like yet because the court and all that is really, really not how it traditionally functions right now. So traditionally when people say the state, or when they say the courts, people read counterplans that are like the lower courts, the state courts, things like that. I think that you could see teams read that is their affirmative solvency mechanism in this debate. I think federal government being not in this topic means that that's not excluded from the topic. So I think even teams might be like, oh, this team reads the con-con counterplan in every debate. I'm just going to read that as my AF instead because I don't want to deal with that counterplan. I don't think that's strategic. But that's definitely something that you could see people do based on the wording of this topic. I think outside of like the actor and changing the actor, I think that this distinction is also important in competition debates for counterplans because I think teams might not specify, say the whole res and just say the United States. And when people go for these types of counterplans, they're just going to say textual competition, we are the states. It's not textually competitive. Now, the problem with that is going to be that same AF probably has federal key warrants in the AC, which mean that it's probably functionally competitive. But that definitely now opens up the debate to functional versus textual competition. Which one should we care more about? How does that work in the debate? And I think specifically with the wording of this topic, that's going to be an argument that some teams might gravitate towards, especially maybe on process counterplans, things of that nature. The last thing that I want to talk about that's kind of separate from all of this is the United States doesn't necessarily mean the United States of America. I know you're probably like, oh, Scott, what are you talking about? But let me tell you a story real fast. When I was a freshman in high school, I did not qualify to CATNATS, the National Catholic Forensics League Grand National Championship, because in our qualifier round, the opposing team broke a United States of Brazil affirmative, and we did not have a single T card that said federal government meant the one in DC, and we lost the debate because we had no links to anything that we were going to say, and they defended Brazil. I've definitely encountered debates where, the U.S. is the topic before, where people say the United States of Brazil, the United States of Italy, all sorts of things like that. I don't think this is going to be like the most popular affirmative on the topic, but I definitely think that somebody is going to go there, so don't be shocked. Might want to have something in your card or in your box that says, the United States federal government is in DC or something like that. Somebody's going to do that. I think the other way to get around this is to just come up with a list of countries that have universal health care, and the United States is not on that list, so that might be a good way of getting some traction in that portion of the debate. The last portion of this is just like, does the United States only mean the states? Because traditionally on domestic topics, territories and places like that, Puerto Rico, etc., have been really good places of affirmative ground, because it's hard for the negative to get a lot of the link arguments that they traditionally get. And I think that that's going to be a debate that's interesting if people are going to read AFs, if people are going to go for like Puerto Rico's not a state, so it can't be a part of the United States, read a definition that includes all of the different territories, things like that. So I think that the scope of that discussion is way beyond this video, but I think that that's something worth noting when you think about the wording of this resolution, with it saying the United States ought, instead of saying the United States federal government ought. So hopefully this discussion of the United States versus federal government in the wording of the resolution was helpful to you, and stay tuned for more videos to come on the universal healthcare single payer topic that we are debating this fall in Lincoln Douglas. See you next time.